I will be doing my presentation on psychopharmacology. So what is it? Psychopharmacology, in essence, is basically the study of different drugs or psychopharmaceuticals and their effects on the mind and the body. Usually this is used for prescription drugs, and that basically means that it is used for people who have mental health problems or mental illnesses. And so usually they are prescribed to people to make them feel better and to help them function cognitively at their highest possible level. So again, it will help with any mental health or mental illness issues that someone has going on at the time. Help them try to get back on their feet by taking drugs prescribed by a medical professional, of course. So I will be mostly going over depression and ADHD and how taking psychopharmaceuticals can help with that. As for the link to other fields, the subject is extremely closely related to the idea of clinical psychology. This branch of psychology is a therapeutic route where a qualified doctor will often diagnose someone with different mental illnesses or diseases or learning disabilities. It is also closely related to a couple other fields, such as biology and biochemistry. It involves a lot of human brain anatomy, as well as talking about the nervous system and the different parts of that. And it also talks about the chemistry that goes on in your brain. It talks about the neurotransmitters and how they're transmitted between axon terminals and how the brain can communicate with itself. So for research that has been done, most of the time when someone is depressed, it is the result of increased levels of cortisol, which is a hormone in the brain that controls various parts of the body, such as the immune response, which is responsible for the fight or flight response. And this can increase the size of the amygdala, which is your emotion center in the brain, so it'll make it a little bit harder to process different emotions. Then to build off of that, the neurons are then responsible for being able to attack that depression or help it get better. And often prescription drugs such as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor is often used. It is an antidepressant, and what it does is it blocks the reuptake of the neurotransmitter so that more levels of that neurotransmitter, in this case serotonin, would be available to the brain because the reuptake of the neurotransmitter was blocked. So the controversies of psychopharmacology would be the use of the prescription drugs, mostly on different age groups. For children, it is often debated because some may have learning disabilities and they may need help in school, but it is almost impossible to tell the long-term effects because it hasn't been tested enough. And considering it is changing brain chemistry in young children, there could be potential long-term effects considering the brain isn't even fully developed till about the age of 25. So that is what's difficult about young children using prescription drugs. In terms of elderly people, although they are fully matured and developed in terms of their brain, they are still a little more weak in their immune response. They metabolize drugs differently than younger people, so it's hard to tell exactly how well a medication is going to work and the proper dosage that they should be given. There's not a whole lot of research on this, and the issue is that if they can have bad enough symptoms that they can put themselves in dangerous situations, say if they are going up the stairs or down the stairs, or they're behind the wheel and they could get dizzy or pass out because of a medication they're using. So in terms of class content and how it is related to the paper, we have talked about neurons and neurotransmitters, which were heavily covered in chapter 2. We went over how they're transmitted, different kinds of neurotransmitters, the synaptic gap, axon terminals, everything like that. And that is very heavily influenced by psychopharmaceuticals and the field of psychopharmacology. So in chapter 2 as well, the amygdala was very heavily covered, and that is obviously very correlated to the depression part of the paper, and the fact that antidepressants and depression can certainly affect how the way your amygdala functions. So then in chapter 5, we discuss attention and learning, which is very heavily correlated with the ADHD topic, and how different prescription medications can help with that as well. So then we finished up by talking about the neurons and neurotransmitters associated with that and the functions of those, as well as the controversies around psychopharmacology in terms of age of subjects using psychopharmaceuticals. We then finished up by talking about chapter content and the neurons and the way that the neurotransmitters were transferred, as well as the attention and retention chapter. And then we finished with the amygdala and emotion processing.